Hey guys, this is Kyle at Projection Hub, and today we are going to be talking about how to write a business plan for an event or wedding venue. Now, what this video is not going to be is I'm not going to write every single word to the business plan here in front of you, but I am going to show you a great structure or an outline for an event venue that's been kind of pre-filled out with a fictitious example for an event venue so that you can get a good reference here. What I'm going to be showing here is actually a free template. You can grab that down in the description. No strings attached at all because, the business plan is only going to be as good as the information that you put in it. But the primary focus of this video is going to be to hit on 5 key points that I think will make or break the success of the business plan. Now, this is coming from the perspective of, if you're trying to get approved for financing for the event or maybe even pitch an investor, that's really what these 5 key points are going to be mainly hitting on, is making sure your business plan is ready to be funded. So even if you're just trying to do business planning for internal planning purposes, I still think these points are going to apply, but just want you to know kind of where I'm coming from on that. So who is Projection Hub? We've helped over 50,000 small businesses, entrepreneurs create financial projections for their business plans, for their loan applications, their pitch decks. And we've worked with a lot of event venues, a lot of wedding venues that are, trying to do that and are in that process. And who am I? As I mentioned, my name is Kyle. In my experience, even aside from working here at Projection Hub for a couple of years, is I was a loan officer at a small business lending agency where, we actually reviewed a lot of loan requests for different event venues. And so I've seen a lot of business plans, a lot of financial projections, and loan packages for event venues, and have had the pleasure of helping some get approved, but also have had to unfortunately deny some. So I kind of know what to look for. We're trying to put together an application for that. So if at any point you find this video helpful, please give us a thumbs up. The video, that's really helpful for us. You can also subscribe to the channel if you'd like. We don't just produce videos on event venues and management, but just business in general that might be helpful for you as you're trying to grow or launch and grow your business. And I think I might have already mentioned, but this template I'm going to show here is a totally free template. You can grab it in the description, and we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, jumping into this. First of all, let's touch on why our business plan is important. Now, I don't mean for this to sound cliche, but for a business plan, the point of this isn't to educate your audience or your lender on what this industry is. Now, if it was a more novel industry that nobody had really ever heard of, or a concept, then the business plan does need to kind of pull double duty and do that education. But really, the purpose is going to be you're demonstrating your plan to succeed. If you're trying to convince someone to give you a loan, they need to see the roadmap to success. So that's primarily what we're doing here. And as you can see here from the table of contents, there's not a ton in here. Contrary to popular belief, business plans don't have to be really long to be good. Now, if you need to write a 40-page, 50-page business plan for your sake to kind of get all your notes and your thoughts and your plans down to really do that, definitely go for that. But what you hand over to your lender, a 5 to 10 page business plan can be really good as long as you include the necessary information. So don't be intimidated by business plans that it needs to be a really elongated process, because your lender, wants to get into the important things really quickly, which are primarily those 5 key points I'm going to hit on here in this video. So what we're going to do is I'm going to roll through the business plan, and as I come to different sections, I'll pause there and dig in a little bit deeper and hit those 5 key points. Okay, so first of all, looking at the table of contents, you can see we're going to have an executive summary, market analysis. We're going to, you're going to outline the products and services that the event venue is going to offer, your marketing and sales strategy, how you plan to acquire those customers, the operations and the actual management of the facility itself and the business, and then financial projections. Obviously, we're a little bit, biased. What we specialize in is financial projections, but in an unbiased opinion, financial projections are really important when it comes to business plan, probably the most important part of your business plan. All right, let's jump into this. So in your executive summary, think of this as kind of like a cover letter to a resume. You don't need to have everything about the business in here. 1 page is totally fine, but you want to hit the key points. So, the name, location, even potentially your total startup costs. You can see how you plan to be funded. Are you going to be getting a loan and investment? Are you putting in money? So that's just some good setup for what they're, about to read. You can even include, who the owners are, key employees, that kind of thing, if that's an important thread on that. So moving forward, market analysis. And this is going to bring us to key point number 1. You need to be able to demonstrate that there is room in the market for whatever you're planning to start. So maybe let's say you live in the community that you plan to open up an event center, and you say, well, I live here. I know that there's an opportunity. While that might be sufficient for you, that may not be sufficient for your lender. They might want to see a little bit more research, a little bit more data to support that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a little bit of example of maybe some easy things you can do to do that process. So let's look at a couple of tools. This first one is a free tool. It's on Google Ads. You have to make a free Google Ads account, but you can come down here and go to tools and the keyword planner. Now what this is doing is we're going to see what people are basically searching on Google. So if they're searching, I've got put in here event venue near me and wedding venue. So we're going to use Fishers, the city of Fishers. I live in Indianapolis, and a close by suburb is called Fishers. So that's what we're going to focus in. And you can also see here that I've selected the location as Fishers. So this is is going to be, if I'm looking for event venue near me, I'm telling Google, like, I want it to act as if I was standing in Fishers when I searched that and see the results. Now, what this is going to do is it is going to show us how often those phrases are being searched. Now, event venue can be a little bit tricky, again, because if someone's going to book a venue that's in their community, they may not necessarily go to Google and search for that because they're like, well, I know this building's there and that building's there, and they might call those places and they kind of, skip Google altogether. So we're not going to lean too heavily on the search volume right here, but what I'm more interested in is the growth, is the trend. So you can see in these search phrases, wedding venue near me, Fishers Event Center, rent for party near me, people looking for those, in Fishers. Let's see the growth here. So you can see 3-month change, positive, which makes sense. We're coming in, I'm recording this in the summer, right? Before the summer. So we're coming into the wedding season, but you can see the year-over-year change. Look how much that's growing, 175%, 1,600%. 33%, banquet halls 200%, venues near me 400%. So you can see that the trajectory is good. That the area is growing, and people looking for event and wedding venues is growing those areas. So that's a good sign, right? That's not necessarily telling us that there's room in the market, but the market is growing. That's a good sign. And the competition is low for those. So if you just opened up and you need to run some advertisement, this is telling you that a lot of people aren't competing for those keywords if you were to pay for advertising. So that's step 1 that I would do. Step 2, good old fashioned Google search, right? So again, if you should be familiar with the area, that's a good plan, but just come over to Google, zoom in. This is Fishers, Indianapolis. So now we can start to see event venues in Indianapolis. I could switch that to event venues near me, but you're going to start to see all these event venues. And now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to highlight, you're going to want to know every event venue within 10 miles of you. Okay. You want to make sure you know the market, who's all included, even more so than which venues there are, their price ranges, because that's a key thing, right? If there's 20 event venues in Fishers and all of them are really high price points, it might be tough to come in and expect to be even higher or another high price point, but maybe you see an opportunity like, oh, there's a good option here for like a middle of the road price. That's a key thing that your lender is going to want to see in your business plan. And yes, I feel like that's a sufficient maybe example as to how you can do a little bit of market analysis and get an idea for what opportunity exists in your community. So actually, one step further you could go there, you could actually like kind of call those venues undercover to act interested in it and just ask, like, how far are you booked out? Like when's the soonest date that I can book a wedding in the next year, and start to get some feedback on, like, if every place is like, well, we're booked out for 18 months, that's a good indicator. There's room, there's high demand in that area. So that's kind of another tip. All right, moving along in the business plan, product and service offerings. I'm not going to stay on this too much, not because this isn't important, it's very important, but because I don't own an event center. And this is going to largely be based on what type of events can your facility support? What type of pricing do you decide is going to be best? And again, that should be informed by the market you're starting in, but you're going to want to list, your packages. Sometimes an event venue might also have like a restaurant attached. Is that going to be your case, or are you only doing weddings? Can you also do corporate events? How big of an event, can you do? So that's really where you're going to want to dig into that here. That's going to be very important specifically for this industry, but it's not one of the 5 key points I'm going to mention, but still, you're going to want to spend a lot of time in that section. Okay, marketing and sales strategy. And here we're going to come to key point number 2, and that's going to be customer acquisition. So it's not going to be good enough if your marketing and sales strategies, we'll have a website and we'll post on social media. That's not going to be sufficient for a lender. Now, those are both good things and things that you should do, but look, kind of like the market analysis, we're looking for a little bit more tangible examples, data to support that, research to support that, a solid plan, or what's called traction. That's an example that you actually have a little bit of, momentum to make this work. You can't do we'll build it and people will come. It's not gonna work here. So what are examples of customer acquisition? This can be a little bit tricky for this industry because it's a big purchase decision. It's a big build out process, likely, especially if you're building a building or renovating a building. That's going to take time, relatively high cost, and getting people interested in it. It's hard for them to make a commitment if the event venue isn't open. So I understand that can be a little bit difficult. But some examples, what you can do, you could try to gather an interest sign up form. If you know some engaged couples or something like that, and you're looking to do weddings, you can get an interest form going of people that might be interested in maybe a discount or something like that, and see how many people you can get interested. You can speak with local vendors. So if you're going to host weddings, you're probably going to need to know florists, DJs, caterers, potentially table and chair rental companies if you're not going to have those things yourself. And you can talk with them, find out what's the demand like in the area. Like, are they booked solid with a lot more venues looking for them, or just a lot of weddings happening. So they're close to the industry. So ask them, like if we considering opening another venue, we'd be interested in having you if we do that as one of our, preferred vendors. What's it looking like out there? Is there room for us to be in there? And note that on your business plan. Like, yeah, we spoke with a lot of local vendors. They said the demand is still really high. You can contact your local government, their economic development office, see if they have any insight on trends or event venues in the area. And one thing you might be able to try, this is maybe a little tricky, but you can actually go to your local library or even maybe the recorder office and ask to see how many marriage licenses have been issued in the county in the last year, right? And then you can kind of compare that. Now, someone doesn't, if they get a marriage license there, I think you have to get a marriage license in the county that you're actually getting married. That might differ from state to state. That's how it is in Indiana. So you might be able to see like, wow, there was 20,000 marriage license issued in Hamilton County in 2022. And you can kind of compare that. Well, there's only 25 event venues in Hamilton County. You can maybe start to do that math a little bit. So those are some examples of tangible examples of both the market opportunity, but also how you're going to acquire those customers. Other obvious things like, are you going to run any special promos? You're going to do flyers, examples that you're actually going to get out there and acquire those customers. Or maybe do you have a good relationship with a wedding photographer that's going to refer business to you? Like that's kind of stuff you want to prove there that you're thinking about. It's not just that you're going to open up and people are going to show up. Okay, moving on. Operations and management. Key point number 3 here, and that's going to be relevant industry experience. So this is where you're going to want to highlight who you are, what your background is. Is your background relevant to owning or managing an event venue? If it's not, is there going to be someone on your team that does have that experience? So not that that's going to be required, but if there isn't relevant industry experience or knowledge on your team, that's going to raise some questions from your lender. They're going to make sure, do you know what you're getting yourself into? Are you going to be successful at getting customers, or are events going to be able to go off with a hitch? So that's a key thing to include here. If you don't have that experience, is someone involved that does have that experience that can be trusted and give confidence to a potential lender. So that's key point number 3 is relevant industry experience. All right, financial projections. Obviously, as I mentioned, we're biased. We think this is a pretty big deal. We're going to dig into this a little bit. So key point number 4 is not just to have financial projections. You need to have financial projections regardless, but I'll get into what key point 4 is here in a second. Just want to show you the section. Some things included: your startup costs, quick breakdown of the important numbers in a financial summary. This is 5 years of projections, revenue, profitability, some event specific data, total number of events, percent of the cost to run those events, sales growth, key ratios, and then we've got 5 years of income statement projection, balance sheet, and cash flow. Now, quick plug, all this data you saw right here was generated using this event venue financial projection template. This is something we offer and has been used by, I think, over 100 event venues now. And you'll be able to see, you can put simple things like your startup costs in here, your startup funding. It'll help you calculate how much cash do you actually need to get started. You'll put in details about your events so you can account for seasonality, which is a big thing in kind of the event industry, your event packages, and then you'll put in your operating expenses, and if you have any, salaried employees. And then what it's going to do, it's going to generate all those charts for you, all these financial statements for you, ready to go, exactly like you just saw copied in that business plan, broken down by annual and monthly. So this, most lenders are going to require 3 years of financial projections. This is going to give you 5 to be conservative, but very easy to do. This was built with the intention that you could do it yourself, but our team is also here to answer questions and help you through it. So that's a quick plug. But key point number 4 on financial projections is you have them, but are they realistic? And do they fall within industry expectations? Well, and maybe you ask, well, how do I know that? Best thing to do, just do some Googling. So look, I searched for typical startup costs for an event venue. Okay, 200 to 500,000. Let's go back to our projections. What are we accounting for here? We're doing cash needed 625,000 with a recommend above or 700,000. So I'm a little bit above that average. Okay. So maybe if I feel confident in that amount, I need to include why. Why do I think that cost is justified? Another example you might say is, what is average revenue for a new event venue? And whatever that is, compare that to my projected revenue. Another important one might be, what's a typical profit margin for an event venue? And I can see, okay, do I fall within that percentage? So that is a good practice to do to make sure that your projections are realistic, is do some research, do some Googling on these key numbers, key metrics, key assumptions, and make sure that you're not an outlier. Okay. So you don't want to be high, you don't want to be low. If you are high or low and you still feel confident in your projections, make sure you explain why that is. Okay. So that's key point number 4. And then the finance projections mostly round out the rest of your business plan. And just keep in mind, like in this 10-page example, the financial projections were like half of the business plan. That's real. When I was a loan officer, a lot of times you read just a little bit of the front and then you skip right to the numbers and you read those to ask questions. So that is not uncommon. But you'll notice we're missing one key point, and that is key point number 5, and that is skin in the game. This is very important if you're trying to get, a loan for your event venue. Skin in the game is a demonstration of mutual risk. So very similar to maybe if you were buying a house, you're trying to get a mortgage and you were required to have a down payment as a percentage of that. So let's say we needed to get a $100,000 loan or $100,000 in total funding for your event venue. Probably going to be more than that. But you go to the bank, they're not going to give you a $100,000 loan if $100,000 is the total startup cost. They might give you $80,000, but say you need to inject the other $20,000 personally. So they're going to want to see you pitch into that. And the second part of skin in the game is collateral. So maybe that's if you purchase the building, they're going to probably want to have a second mortgage on that building. If you have equity in your home, they might want a second mortgage on your house. If you have a free and clear car, they might want to hold the title to that car. So that's just a thing to be aware of. Now they don't do that to wreck or control your life, but more so to see your commitment to seeing this through. Now, we would hear this all the time as lenders, and that was people would say, well, I need to keep my business and my personal separate. That is great advice. Do that for your accounting, do that for your bank account. But when it comes to lending, you're going to be required to be just as committed personally as your business. And if you're not comfortable with that, then you're likely not going to get financing. So that's just a thing to keep in mind. And that rounds out the 5 key points on an event venue business plan. Now, as a thank you for sticking with me this long, I want to give you, if you need the financial projections, you can use PH20BP to get a 20% discount on the template. I think it might be $100 before that, maybe even a little less than that. So definitely affordable. Once you buy the file, it's yours, but you can ask us any questions you want. There is a complete video walkthrough guide of how to fill the template out as well. And that does it for us here. If you enjoyed the video or if it was helpful, please give us a thumbs up. Also consider subscribing to the channel if you'd like more tips on managing your business. Both of those things really help us. And if you already have financial projections and you'd like us to review them, feel free to send them to us at support@projectionhub.com. We'd be happy to give you some feedback on that. And yeah, we appreciate you guys being here. I've linked the business plan template and the financial projection template down in the description so you can get those easily. Thanks.